Hey there, Scouting Stuff listeners. No new episode this week, unfortunately. Scouter Colin and I are both away, and we weren't able to get together ahead of being away to record a new episode. Just too many things came up that got in the way of actually getting together. That's all right, though. Rather than leave you with a blank week, I decided to reach back into the archives and unearth an old episode for a rebroadcast. So this harkens us back to, I think this was episode 23 originally, but it looks at why the Scouting movement uses the Fleur-de-lis for its symbol. This was a fairly well-received episode when it first launched. A lot of people actually wound up, from what I understand, incorporating it into some of the training that they gave to their parents, because sometimes parents are curious too. Hey, why does Scouting use the symbols that it does? Well, you know what? We tried to look at the answer to that question in this episode, and we got some really good feedback from it as a result. So, dive back in time, dive back to the days before we had really good microphones for a look at why Scouts use the Fleur-de-lis.
Well, and it was fun because I actually went back in our history to listen to some of the earlier podcasts just for,
Comparison's sake.
Yeah, historical comparative. Are we getting better? And certainly the technology has gotten better since our initial
the tech curve has certainly
initial recordings. But yeah, it's coming along.
I still got to find a way to not use the crappy mic over there.
Ah, yes. Yeah.
When there's three of us.
Yeah.
But still working on that. Well, welcome back to another episode of Scouting Stuff You Should Know. This is episode 23.
Hooray!
There we go. See?
Hey.
I was ready that time.
Hey. Yeah. The show notes help a lot, don't they?
They do. All right, and you have got two of us tonight. Of course, you can hear that lovely chuckle, so that means Colin is with us again.
Yes, sir.
And, of course, you got myself, Scouter Ken. Now, before we get to the main topic tonight, I have one thing I wanted to show you.
Oh, okay.
So, we've talked about the Canadian Path a fair bit.
Right.
And the new badge program, of course, that it brings to the Beavers. It changed the badge program for Cubs and Scouts.
Yeah, how the structure of it is actually changed.
And in a way, they're a lot more harmonized.
Right.
But
consistency throughout the sections, if you will.
Yes.
Yeah.
But, of course, the big thing for me as the Beaver Scouter is that, oh my gosh, my Beavers can actually earn badges.
Yes.
It's kind of a big deal.
Yes.
But there was a bit of a hiccup because, if I look in my Scouter's manual, there's a great reference section in the back. Just a page after page. Here's this badge, here's this badge, here's this badge, and ideas for how the youth can pursue the badges.
Right.
Now, that's for the personal achievement badges, which are entirely optional. For the outdoor adventure skills, even in my Scouter's manual, it talks about the skills and the different categories, but there's no actual requirement list.
Oh, fiddle-dee-dee.
So, now, if you go to Scouts Canada's Canadian Path website and you go to the Outdoor Adventure Skills section on it, you can find actually really excellent documentation in PDF format.
Okay.
Of, this is your trail skills, outdoor adventure skill. Stages 1 to 9, here's all the requirements, and here's the competencies that you're expecting to see the youth demonstrate.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Okay.
Great documentation.
Yes.
Available in PDF. On the Scouts Canada website.
Okay.
If I send out that link to the parents, 5 of them at most are going to actually do something with that. Plus that, there's an inherent risk here.
Yes.
I'm going to hand a 5-year-old a printed off 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper with a checklist on it.
Oh! Are you afraid that won't
and I'm going to
get
tell
home?
This 5-year-old that I hope he or she will bring this loose piece of printed paper back to each successive meeting.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, because that'll work.
So
that's a great idea.
And then I'm going to do this a whole bunch of times across multiple kids and multiple outdoor adventure skills.
Yep. That plan doesn't sound flawed at all.
I know. Certainly, having raised a couple of 5-year-olds of my own now,
yes.
I can totally not see anything wrong with that plan.
No, isn't that why parents always went to the whole, like people giving email addresses at like schools and things like that, just so that they could get the correspondences?
Yes,
from the.
Or that's why, like, when my brother was in high school, like, there was a login portal
yes.
that my mom could go to. And,
and get all the announcements or whatever.
Exactly.
Whatever stuff was there.
I don't think we have that through the school system here. Not that I was really ever keen on that idea. It always seemed a little bit too invasive to me. But, the teachers do have websites that they maintain and update.
Yes.
So that's good, too.
Yeah.
But anyways, now I could set up a group website. Certainly have the technical competency to do that.
Yes.
But anyways, I was talking with another of my leaders, and we were back and forthing a little bit just around the idea of, we've put together other bits of sundry documentation. Like last year we did, survival kits and go bags.
Right.
And, what do you want to put in these?
Yeah.
So that documentation is all sitting in Quip anyways. It's just in our shared folders. And, or what to pack for camp, things like that. All of this handy documentation that is...
It's infrastructure that's already put in place by the sounds of it. Mm-hmm.
And, if you look at the field book for Canadian Scouting over there, which still has a purpose, by the way, it's actually referenced multiple times in the Outdoor Adventure Skills.
Oh, okay. So, that's good.
Yes. But it's also the field book for Canadian Scouting. It's probably a little above the age level of a beaver.
Yeah.
Well, maybe. Some beavers, I think, could totally hack it. Some, not so much.
I wouldn't qualify it as bedtime reading for a beaver.
No. It's not written in, the most technically complicated language. I think that there's, for someone like, my older daughter, I don't think there'd be a comprehension issue. Some of the other beavers, I think they'd be fine. Others, not so much.
Mm-hmm.
Let's face it. Ages 5, 6, and 7, for a lot of kids, you're going to go from not reading, kind of reading, reading quite well.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of change that happens across that relatively small span of ages in terms of their ability to read and comprehend a text. Mm-hmm. Anyways, we eventually settled on this idea that, we should really just have one common source that has the badge requirements that we can add to or expand if we actually, produce more documentation for the kids, like the survival kit packet contents or a go bag or things like that, right?
Yeah.
So I put together, and I'll put a link in the show notes to this. I put together that.
Ooh.
It's called the Unofficial Beaver Scout Badge Handbook. And for now, all it is just a badge handbook.
Yeah.
So, I wrote a brief section at the start that's like an introduction to beavers and scouting.
Yeah.
And like the names that you can pick for your leaders.
Yeah.
And then a brief little bit about the Canadian Path.
Yeah.
A lot of which I just took right from the Scouts Canada website. Because the text was already written.
Yeah.
But then, for the Outdoor Adventure Skills...
Mm-hmm.
So for the Outdoor Adventure Skills...
This document looks pretty sharp. I'm not going to lie. That's...
So for the Outdoor Adventure Skills, you can see, like, I pulled in the checklists from that document that I was talking about. I pulled in, like, the requirements that, we're kind of expecting the kids to demonstrate.
Yeah. No, if I was a leader in the beaver section, that would be a very handy, very useful document to have in the kit.
And then also, like, there's the North Star Award.
Mm-hmm.
And then for the personal achievement badges, I basically took the suggestions and guidelines for the badge. Yeah. And then I also pulled in the badge planning sheet, which was another document that had been released.
Yeah.
So it's basically, So now you open the book. On the left-hand side, you get the badge, discussion of the badge. And then on the right-hand side, you get the planning sheet. And it just does that for each badge in turn.
So would this be something now, like, who's the person that would be reading this document? Like, I mean, as a leader, that's pretty sharp. But would you be giving that book then to the youth and being like, you have to like, do whatever, coil it, laminate the covers, that kind of thing?
Not even that, actually. The website you saw it on there, and this is why I can put a link in the show notes.
Right.
It's a service called Blurb. I've used it in the past. I use it actually every couple of years. We put together a photo book of the kids for parents, grandparents, yeah. And that's what it's basically a book printing service.
Oh.
So all I did was I put together everything in Word. Did a couple of there were some formatting adjustments that have to be made because it's Word. It's not the best for doing book layouts. But I haven't shelled out for Adobe InDesign, so whatever.
You'll be a slave to Microsoft like everybody else.
I can bend it to my will. But then I just saved it as a PDF, uploaded it to Blurb, put some cover art on it, and ordered 50 copies that should be here about middle of next week.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's
just in time for investiture.
Oh.
So each kit, they're a 5 by. I set it up for a 5x8 soft cover book, kind of like Scouting for Boys over here, pretty much.
Right.
And so each kid's going to be able to take one home. And I mean, again, even for the 5-year-olds, it's there's going to be the badge requirements are what they are. I pulled them right out of the documents for Scouts Canada, and so the language is what it is. And they're definitely going to be relying on their parents to help understand it, but then they're going to be relying on their parents to help cross off some of those goals anyways.
Yeah.
So it should be okay. The parts of the book where I did some original writing, so quick history of the beaver movement, things like that.
Yeah.
There I tried to write it in a much more, vernacular, kid-friendly terminology and make it very personal. It's not the youth, it's you.
Yeah. They don't need to know that they're youth.
So, I threw that together over the course of a couple of weeks. And I mean, I look at it now and I'm like, oh, well, I could have formatted that a little bit better. But you know what? It gives me something that I think has a much better chance of working the way I need it to.
Yeah. That's infrastructure that's now in place for you, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the plan actually is, over the course of the year, as we generate material, I mean, I am suggesting for the older beavers that they just get a copy of the field book.
Yeah.
But the field book doesn't contain everything. It's got a lot of good stuff, but it doesn't contain everything. So if we produce anything that, I guess I'm going to use the word, would supplement what's in the field book, I've still got the in-progress document. We'll keep adding to it. And then at the end of the year, I'll probably produce like a V2.0 that has the badge guides, and then any additional information that we've put in.
Your various appendices.
A lot of which is going to be related to the outdoor adventure skills anyway.
Yeah.
But
no, cool.
So
yeah, that's pretty slick.
Yeah, that was my all-consuming project for the last 2 weeks.
Well, congratulations on the accomplishment. I think it'll be a valuable resource for any beaver leader at any rate. That'll be a pretty handy tool.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, I only went with the first 3 stages of the outdoor adventure skills, but then again, if you look at the Beaver Scout map, that's all they. If you look under the outdoor adventure skills badges that are depicted on the map, there's only 3 little check boxes underneath, anyways.
Yeah. They don't want to push them too hard, too fast.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't want to get to like level 6.
Well,
and be like, honestly, mountaineering.
Yeah. Honestly, looking at the level 3 requirements, it'll be the rare beaver who hits level 3 in most of the outdoor adventure skills, anyways.
Yeah.
So,
fair enough.
Not worried about that. But that is actually really just a long preamble for what I did want to talk about. And this question actually does come out of beavers because I had one of my new beavers this year, very, very keen little girl. She's very enthusiastic. and the family has some some French background at any rate, right?
Oh, okay. Yep.
So at the very first meeting, she and then her mom come up to me, and she's kind of, a little bit, she was being a little bit shy for whatever reason, because that's not what I'd come to expect from her. She came out to a couple of our meetings last year as well. But, she kind of asked this question, and I don't quite catch it. So her mom's just like, she wants to know why you use the Fleur-de-lis. Because it's like, I thought scouting started in England, and the Fleur-de-lis is, it's a French symbol.
Very French.
Well, so, I can say that I've been asked this question now, and I'm pretty sure that other scout leaders have probably fielded a similar question before. So what I wanted to do was kind of just take a look at the history of the Fleur-de-lis and its use as a symbol in scouting. And I got to admit that if you actually crack open like the original copy of Scouting for Boys, in the section where he's talking about the Scout's badge, I don't think Baden-Powell actually even references it as a fleur-de-lis at all.
Interesting.
So on the I have Scouting for Boys, the original 1908 edition, although this is a reprint. But this is on page 34. This is in part 1 of the book, Boy Scouts Organization. It is in the badges and medals section. And BP writes, the Scout's badge is this, and it shows an early depiction of the fleur-de-lis. Okay? So, as you can see, it's, the fleur-de-lis shape, the band, and then a banner underneath with Be Prepared on it.
Right.
The Scout's badge is the arrowhead, Baden-Powell writes, which shows the north on a map or on the compass. It is the badge of the Scout in the Army because he shows the way. So, too, a peace Scout shows the way in his duty, or in doing his duty and helping others. The motto on it is the Scout's motto of Be Prepared, BP, my initials, which means that a Scout must always be prepared at any moment to do his duty and to face danger in order to help his fellow men. Its scroll is turned up at the ends like a Scout's mouth because he does his duty with a smile and willingly. There's also a little knot hanging off the bottom of the scroll. The knot is to remind the Scout to do a good turn to someone daily. A Scout's badge represents and is called his life. It is given him when he passes his tests in Scoutcraft necessary to make him a Scout. And it goes on and on from there. But I didn't notice any point in here where he actually calls it the Fleur-de-lis. And in doing some research for this episode, I actually noticed that in their, what was this now? The 1911 Boy Scout Handbook published by Boy Scouts of America, I actually noticed that they, here, I'll read it. The Scout badge is not intended to represent the fleur-de-lis, or an arrowhead.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I was going to say, a moment of pause and a raised eyebrow.
Hang on, wait a minute. Back to page 33.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure you just read something.
The Scout's badge is the arrowhead. The Scout badge is not intended to represent the fleur-de-lis or an arrowhead.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Do tell. What is it supposed to be?
We're already seeing some fluidity in the definition of the symbol.
Yes. Consistency across the board.
Yes. Continuing, though, it is a modified form of the sign of the north on the mariner's compass. Aha. So there's that compass theme again.
Yeah.
Which is as old as the history of navigation. The Chinese claim its use among them as early as 2634 BC. And we have definite information that it was used at sea as early as 300 AD. Marco Polo brought the compass to Europe on his return from Cathay. The signs of the north on the compass gradually came to represent the sign of the north on the compass gradually came to represent the north, and pioneers, trappers, woodsmen, and scouts, because of this, adopted it as their emblem. Through centuries of use, it has undergone modification until it has now assumed the shape of our badge. This trifoil badge of the Scouts is now used with slight local variations in almost every civilized country as the mark of brotherhood for good citizenship and friendliness. Its scroll is turned up at the ends like a Scout's mouth because he does his duty with a smile and willingly. The knot is to remind the Scout to do a good turn to someone daily. So,
okay,
some recurring themes there,
yep,
but also some divergence in opinion.
Yeah. Well, I do recall when being back in Scouts and having that discussion about why the Fleur-de-lis and the compass being a very much a topic. Like the main reason why it was used is because it was a symbol of
it's an embellished compass point, really,
right?
Is what it. And I mean, you can, like, I don't have them here. They're still at my folks' place, but like, there's maps in like the Encyclopedia Britannica. My folks have a set
you might have
Encyclopedia
to
Britannica.
If our listeners are
right. For those of you under the age of whenever smartphones really started to become a thing. No, I
you don't even remember when smartphones became a thing?
I shouldn't be quite so sardonic. But, you don't see them as much anymore, although I imagine school libraries probably still have a set. But the problem with a printed encyclopedia is that they rapidly become out of date, right?
Well, yeah, you're always getting the next edition and that kind of thing. The information,
right.
The information is added to, never taken away. So
exactly, but it used to be much more commonplace for families to have a printed set of encyclopedias at home. Often the Encyclopedia Britannica, although that was one among many. Mm-hmm. My folks actually just inherited theirs from my dad's mother, my grandmother.
Yeah, I recall having a set of encyclopedia. We actually had the Canadian encyclopedia, and that was like 3 books.
It's the condensed version.
Yeah. Well, when you think of back when encyclopedias were a thing, it was like 12 books.
Yes, or gosh, I think my parents' Britannica set is probably closer to 30.
Oh, wow.
It's a monumental set.
Wow. Yeah. But
but there's sections of some of the books that have maps, and some of them do actually use this embellished
compass point.
Looks like a fleur-de-lis.
Yeah, but they also like for the World Scouting emblem. I mean, the emblem itself has changed and morphed over time, like what they were saying.
Yes, so we'll get to that in a minute too, because there's actually some interesting. Now, I just wanted to note too that since 1911, BSA has come to call the symbol the fleur-de-lis. Okay. As evidenced both by, and I'll include links in the show notes to this. I couldn't find like an online Scouter's manual, PDF, or anything like that, but I did find some downloadable graphics on their website. Mm-hmm. So the official BSA logo, which they flag as a fleur-de-lis. And then also there's multiple references to the symbol by name in their brand guide.
Oh, okay. It's interesting that they do call it a fleur-de-lis, even though the documentation...
Well, again, that was from their 1911 handbook, so a century and more ago, right?
Oh, okay.
So obviously there's been some refinement in terms, or there's been some adjustment in terms of how they have seen and referenced the symbol.
I may have missed the 1911 part of that discussion.
Yes, 1911 Boy Scout Handbook.
Okay, fair enough.
Says that it is not meant to represent the fleur-de-lis, but since then, they've certainly come to use that as the name of the symbol.
Right.
Now, let's think, I mean, the modern World Scout emblem, you've got the fleur-de-lis, right? So you've got the trifoil bound together. On the outer leaves, what's on the outer leaves?
Stars.
Stars. And what encircles?
Rope.
Yes. Tied with a?
Reef knot.
Right.
Look at how smart I am.
There you go.
That's all by memory.
So this one I took from the scouting pages, and I'll try to remember to include a link in the show notes, okay? The basic design was in use for centuries before it came to indicate north on a compass. The Chinese are known to have used it as a direction symbol as early as 2000 BC. The Larousse Encyclopedia notes that some Etruscan bronzes and Roman ornaments carried the design, and it has been found on ancient monuments in Egypt and India. So there you go. It is used as a navigation aid in Europe, or its use, as a navigation aid in Europe probably dates from the end of the 13th century when Marco Polo brought back a compass from Cathay. So there you go again.
Okay.
The Grand Encyclopedia credits an Italian marine pilot, Flavio Gioia of Amalfi, for drawing it as a north point on a primitive compass that he built. The Encyclopedia Britannica gives another interesting version of the origin of the design. This is that it derives from the wind rose, which is much older than the magnetic compass and first appeared on the charts for Mediterranean sea pilots.
Okay.
The eight main wind directions were shown by Greek letters, and the north wind marked T for tramontana. In time, the T was embellished or combined with an arrowhead so that it was no longer recognizable as a T.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah.
The design is much used elsewhere. It appears in ornate versions on heraldic coats of arms and in many decorative designs. Sometimes it is used to represent a lance or a spearhead, a lily, which is actually where we get Fleur-de-lis from, or even a bee or a toad.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'm not seeing it, but apparently.
No, I'll just take your word for it.
Or take the scouting page's word for it.
Yeah.
Yes. So today, as the symbol continues to point the way for navigators, so all over the world it points the way to service and brotherhood for all members of the Scout movement. And concerning the elements of the emblem as it is used in Scouting, so the encircling rope symbolizes the unity and family of the World Scout movement. The reef knot, which can't be undone no matter how hard it is pulled, is symbolic of the strength of World Scouting's unity and family. The 2 5-point stars stand for truth and knowledge, with the 10 individual points of the stars representing the 10 points of the original Scout law. So what is a Scout? A Scout is honorable, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, and clean. Finally, the trifoil itself is generally seen as representing the 3 main parts of the promise. Duty to God and country, help other people, keep the Scout law.
That seems to strike a chord when you said that. I'm like, yeah, okay, that totally makes sense.
Yep. And then the world emblem itself is, so the World Scouting emblem is a badge. You'll see it just about on any scouting uniform. Round
purple badge
with all of the
white
heraldry in white. Yes. So, royal purple background. Yeah. So the white or silver represents purity, and the royal purple denotes leadership and service. There is your, and actually was just going through our new Scouter Manual, and the Scouter Manual, Scouts Canada's new A Scouter's Guide to the Canadian Path, puts all of this a bit more succinctly, but kind of hits on the same facts and themes. The WSM membership badge is the World Scout emblem, a purple circular badge with the fleur-de-lis in the center, surrounded by a piece of rope tied with a reef knot. Now here is where I actually have to object slightly, because they put bracket, also called a square knot, which not quite.
When we learn the reef knot, that's what the literature called it too.
Mm-hmm.
They called it a square knot.
True, but we did kind of come to think of the square knot as being the, anyways, not important.
You can tie a square knot.
You can, yes.
And it comes out and it looks like a square.
Baden-Powell first used the fleur-de-lis on a badge awarded to British Army Scouts and subsequently adopted and modified the badge for Scouting. The arrowhead represents the north point on a compass. Mm-hmm. It's intended to point Scouts on the path to service and unity. The 3 points on the fleur-de-lis represent service to others, duty to God, and obedience to the Scout law. The 2 5-point stars stands for truth and knowledge, with the 10 points representing the 10 points of the Scout law. The bond at the base of the fleur-de-lis, haven't had that discussed before, symbolizes the family of Scouting, and the encircling rope also symbolizes the family of the World Scout movement, and, of course, its unity. So,
similarities there? Yes.
But also, again, like we kind of see this evolution going from, well, it's just an arrowhead, to it's not an arrowhead, and it's not the fleur-de-lis, to, no, it is the fleur-de-lis, and also representing an arrowhead. I think, though, the main point, the compass, is kind of that one recurring theme, which is perhaps why it's such a fitting symbol for the Scout movement, right? Because it's, really very much about that. Well, direction.
Yeah.
And, too, north. I mean, even today, compass is a good skill for any Scout to know how to, is a good skill for any Scout to acquire.
Google Maps doesn't always work in every location.
There are places where LTE and even 3G will fail you.
Yes.
And in fact, there's
the middle of northern Alberta. There
Yes.
is no cellular reception.
Well, there's more there than the middle of northern Saskatchewan.
Oh, true. I've been to both places.
Yes. I mean, I always enjoy looking at like Bell. So Bell is the mobile provider I'm with. Mm-hmm. And if you go to their coverage map, like Alberta sticks out like a sore thumb.
Yeah.
Because like everything else, the coverage is basically this big band right, along the border and about as far north as Calgary, except in Alberta. Alberta is just like much of the province. There's still a lot of gaps, especially as you get further north. Mm-hmm. But, Alberta has a very conspicuous amount of coverage going much further north.
Yeah.
I mean, probably because of like all the oil development and whatnot. But,
yep.
But yeah, no, I always enjoy looking at Canadian coverage maps. They're kind of funny.
Where am I? I have no idea.
Yes. I can't even load Google. I'm on the middle of a lake.
I have to use this thing called a map.
Yeah, Lac La Ronge, no cell coverage, pretty sure. If you needed to find your way on that lake, you would have to use more primitive means.
Yep.
But
so yes, a compass is a good.
It's a good piece of scoutcraft
Yep.
knowledge to have, anyways. Mm-hmm. But there is just that sort of richer symbolism of direction and of being knowledgeable about. Gosh, I mean, about like the different skills of scoutcraft and just sort of having that confidence. I mean, that's one thing that even I'll note. When I'm like even just on a trip with the family, right? Everybody else in the car can be just like, "Where are we?" Mm-hmm. But I'm pretty confident.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, no, we're here.
Yeah.
Okay, well, where is this thing? It's just over there.
Yeah.
So just that confidence in your surroundings and in your ability to find your way. All things you would hope to find in a scout.
Yes. Directionally, like I've always been pretty good about knowing where, like knowing which direction I'm traveling and how to get back to where I've been. The only time that it threw me off actually was when my sister and I traveled to Australia, and we got off the plane, landed in Sydney, got to our hotel, and then went for a walk. And we didn't go very far, but I got so turned around. Like I'm like, okay, so we'll go left and we'll go back to the hotel. And my sister's like, no, that's not not the direction.
Sure that's not where we want to go.
Yeah, because we'll be walking further away from the hotel. No, I'm pretty sure we'll be going back the right way. Nope. Check a map, and sure enough,
I had a pretty good time with it in Greece. That was probably the time where I kind of was having to do the most thinking on my feet in terms of like how to navigate around.
Yes.
Because we were just walking through different cities, not in a vehicle, just wandering. Yeah. And I mean, on some of those older cities, it is a little bit easier to get turned around on that kind of spiderweb street plan.
Yeah, when the roads aren't straight.
Mm-hmm.
Alberta, and specifically in Edmonton, you don't find, it's very grid oriented, right? So it doesn't matter. You know that if you're on a street, you're running north-south, and if you're on an avenue, you're running east-west, and they get bigger as you go from the east. The streets get bigger as you go from the east side of the city to the west. And
Edmonton just, though, it likes to throw little curveballs at you, like how 66th Street suddenly becomes 75th Street.
Yes.
And you haven't left the road that you were on.
Yes.
Just, I crossed a bridge, and now I'm on a different street.
Or even some of the major arteries that, start out as Grote Road and then become Marc Messier Way or...
Yeah, I guess it does that too, right?
Yeah. Well, same with 66th and 75th, and then Wayne Gretzky, and
or even just
Fort Road. It's all the same. It's all the same road.
Yeah,
it doesn't change.
They all kind of blend into one another, don't they?
Yeah. You just can't call the road
Fort Road, Manning Drive, and it's just like, well, all I did was cross an avenue. Like, what happened? But that happens a lot around here too. Like, I mean. Mm-hmm. you can be on a road and it'll have one name, and then you get through an intersection and you're still on the same street you were driving on. You have not left your lane or anything, but all of a sudden your street has changed names. It's kind of a quirk of just road design around here.
City planning.
I am not a fan.
Boo.
Or like, my front street here, it'll just, it's a long example too, like it goes from basically the school over here all the way across the community. Like it cuts,
We're talking,
over
4 kilometers?
Yeah. Like, it would take me a good, 40 odd minutes probably to walk to the end of it.
Okay.
So, it's, I don't know if, 3-4 clicks, I'm not entirely sure, but it's a good distance.
Yep.
But then, you hit that intersection, and if you just stay in your lane and keep going straight, you are on a completely different road name.
Yeah.
Speed limit stays the same, which is kind of unusual, but whatever.
So confusing.
Yes. No consistency.
Yeah.
But anyways, so the Fleur-de-lis symbol really is, there's definitely been some evolution in terms of how the movement has viewed it.
Yes.
But I think the overarching themes that it's trying to capture have really been...
They've stayed
fairly consistent.
Yeah.
Although it is interesting to note that, like in Scouting for Boys and in the original conception, and this I think is also reflected in terms of the 1911 BSA handbook. It started out as just the trifoil, the stars, the rope kind of came later on.
Yeah.
And I actually wasn't able to find exactly when the different elements were added by year. But
well, you look at the scouting symbol, and like on the flag for the scouting section, it's not the World Scouting symbol.
No.
That's a different layout than the actual scouting.
That's true too.
So, what you could be looking for is when the World Scouting movement take on that emblem and make it their own with the royal purple and
that could be it too, because I think even if I'm not mistaken, like if you look at the I want to go to think this is true of BSA. Okay, so the Boy Scouts of America logo actually does have the stars.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Doesn't have this encircling rope, but it does have the stars.
And it doesn't have the band.
Yes. Oh, that's true. Well, the eagle's
there's
kind
an
of
eagle
in the way,
in front of it, but
and let's just do a quick comparison to Scouts Canada. So Scouts Canada has the band, but no stars, and the encircling rope is not there. It's enclosed inside a maple leaf, which is then enclosed inside a teepee or a tent.
Yeah, one of the two.
One of the two. Yes. There's the World Organization one, of course.
Yeah. No.
And what's this one? Oh, that's more Scouting in Canada. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyways, so, you're right. There is definitely some additional variation on the...
And
interesting.
And I wonder if it depends on the logo that you're looking at a given time. Like, I'm sure Scouts Canada, their brand when they've changed things, I don't know if they always use the Fleur-de-lis on a maple leaf, or if that's just a recent thing.
Probably more recent. I mean, my old Cub uniform and Scout uniform are in there somewhere in a box. I'm sure if I pulled them out,
there were stickers that had like "I support Scouting" and it had that brand on there. And I'm trying to remember if that was back when I was in Scouts, or if that was something that happened as I was a leader.
I seem to remember those more from about when we were in Scouting.
Yeah.
They were kind of,
So that particular picture is something that's an old logo.
Well, that's all right.
Yeah,
I mean,
comparatively speaking, at any rate,
if you can stick with a logo for more than like 3 years, it's probably a good thing.
Yeah.
You've done well in terms of designing your logo.
Yeah. Well, here's a question that I have. If we didn't have the current logo, what would be a suitable logo for scouting?
That's a good one.
Yeah, like
I mean,
something that because right now we have the World Scouting emblem, right?
Yep.
And it brings everybody together, and it's a unifying badge. You would need to find the same thing.
well, I think the next most obvious one would probably just be a compass itself,
Okay.
right? You know, capturing a lot of that same symbolism, but being more explicit about it. You're not just
Yeah.
using the compass pointer; you just use the whole darn compass.
Right.
You know, and I think there are a couple of organizations around the world that use that. Hang on, let me see.
Or at least the star that you would see up at the top of a map,
Yep.
and not the compass.
Yeah, like
I forget what that star is called.
Yeah. Yeah, the Navigators
That- yeah.
organization uses the
That one.
Yeah.
Yeah. That would probably be the next suitable one.
Yeah, that would be an example. I mean, scouting emerged in the Northern Hemisphere, so something like the North Star
Yeah.
wouldn't necessarily be the worst symbol, but at the same token, not particularly useful in the Southern Hemisphere.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, and
there you've got the Southern Cross.
right. You want something that's unifying. So
Yeah.
I mean, the current badge is actually the current logo is probably the best.
It is that,
It was
like I say, yeah,
well-
the compass.
Well done, BP, for
Yes,
for
well chosen.
yeah for picking that particular.
All right. Well, you got any shout-outs?
No, I don't think so. Other
Well-
than some delicious baking. So
Yes, yes. Thank you to your friend for some delicious baking.
yes, they're called blondies, and they're
Like an inverse color brownie.
yeah. It's yeah, I think they're quite tasty, actually.
Delightful.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well,
And you? Do you have any shout?
not me personally, but I would like to give our customary shout out, of course, to the folks at Scouting Radio
Yes.
for rebroadcasting our episodes to their worldwide audience. And hey, if you're listening to us on Scouting Radio right now, let us know. Reach out and get in touch. We would love to hear from you. Now, here's how you can do that. You can, of course, shoot us an email, scoutingstuffpodcast@gmail.com. You can follow us on Twitter at SSYSK Podcast. You can like us on Facebook, facebook.com/scoutingstuffpodcast. And if you really like us, please do leave us a review on iTunes, because it does, in Apple's weird metrics, it adds to our visibility, and hey, that's a good thing. Or if you're really feeling keen, you can leave us a voice message. You just go to our website, scoutingstuffpodcast.com, click on the Leave Us a Message link at the top, and that'll take you to a page where you can leave us up to like 90 seconds of audio in a...
It's the tweet of the audio recording. Get what you can in 90 seconds.
Yes, exactly.
If you can talk really fast, you could probably get a lot in 90 seconds.
But, you know, I'm pretty good with the editing too, so if you record like 2 or 3 things, I can probably splice them all together.
I would like to see how much one person could get in 90 seconds.
Well, I think my inbox... Yeah, well, yeah, that would be a...
There's a challenge to the listeners.
All right. Well, thank you again, everyone, for listening. And we hope that you learned, if you didn't already know, a little bit more about the Fleur-de-lis
I know I did.
and why we use it as a symbol. And how it didn't start as a fleur-de-lis, but, you know, it's kind of... Anyways, thank you. Thank you so much for listening. And until next time, be prepared.